The news broke just now that Pawn Stars Chumlee, whose real name is Austin Lee Russell, has agreed to a plea deal that will keep him out of jail. Rick Harrison's crumbling world is unfolding before our very eyes. His son is embroiled in a contentious family dispute following his life sentence, which threatens to derail his entire life's efforts. The Pawn Stars kingdom has gone from being unstoppable to nearly destroyed. Keep watching to find out how the truth about Rick's fall is revealed and what happens next. When a power outage occurs in Las Vegas, everyone will be taken aback. At 59 years of age, Rick Harrison is currently mired in an endless sea of legal battles and family disputes. Speculation about a life sentence for his son quickly turned out to be accurate. It appears that Pawn Stars, which was once a money-making machine, will not be around for much longer. Just when you think things are getting bad, they get even worse. A crime occurs just as a family is breaking apart, forever altering the course of events. Pawn Stars was more than a stroke of luck, it was meticulously crafted from the ground up. Richard, Rick's dad, and Rick were quite the pair. They were very financially savvy and would not tolerate inanity. His fans appreciated his candor and lack of pretense. Tragically, the shop lost more than just its founder when Richard passed away in 2018. Its essence was eroded. The historical context and the family's bond were two things that many enjoyed. Kids loved Chumlee. Despite Rick's best efforts, Las Vegas was already in a precarious situation. Operating a pawn shop was challenging due to late payments, low profits, and dealing with troublesome customers. But Rick was a master at winning. He knew people weren't merely purchasing goods. History and a connection to a greater cause were what they were purchasing. People loved Pawn Stars because it featured strange and unusual items accompanied by even stranger stories. Following that, in 2009, the television series premiered. Corey, Rick's son, and their friend Chumlee shot to fame out of nowhere, surprising everyone. Their trades in antique coins and pirate swords were fascinating to observe. Instantly, the show became popular. However, stardom can change everything. The increasing number of lawsuits and family disputes made it increasingly difficult to conceal the mayhem unfolding behind the scenes. By 2022, everything would have become too obvious. Since they couldn't come to a consensus on the shop's ownership, Rick's mum Joanne decided to take him to court. Although he insisted she was fully aware of her actions, she claimed he had tricked her into relinquishing her portion while she was unconscious. In addition to demanding an accounting of over $500,000, the lawsuit sought an injunction to prevent him from liquidating the shop's assets. Since its inception, the Toy Expo has been drawing crowds with its infectiously good time vibes. A half-truckload of toys was mine yesterday. The pandemic's freight train impact on their company only made matters worse. They had a lot of money coming in before a bad case reduced it to $37,000. Afterwards, there was the adorable clown Chumlee on television. Off-screen, he was constantly in trouble. As part of an investigation into a crime in 2016, his residence was searched. The sexual assault charges were dropped, but the cops discovered enough illegal drugs and firearms to press multiple charges against him. Although he avoided jail time by accepting a plea deal, his reputation will be forever marred. A large number of viewers abruptly stopped tuning in because they were so shocked. Not even Corey was able to avoid getting into trouble. He was known for his history of bar brawls and run-ins with the law. In 2020, he went on a road trip to the desert by renting a car. Reportedly, he ruined it and then declined to pay for it. It was reportedly left by the owner, with a lot of rubbish and empty bottles. As a result, the Harrison family took a public beating. Nobody is safe from scams, not even the experts. An argument between friends led to the charges against Johnny Jimenez Jr., who is known as a toy expert. The show's credibility took a major hit when sports memorabilia expert and host Drew Max was implicated in a fraud case involving the certification of counterfeit collectibles. It took some time for Pawn Stars viewers to figure out that the show was off. Once entertaining, the show now slowed down to tell a family story about artifacts from the past. Rick attempted to broaden his business's reach by constructing Pawn Plaza, a retail complex adjacent to the store. There were scandals and betrayals. The venture was unsuccessful because the local businesses held him responsible for underselling the area. Consequently, legal action was taken, and yet another ambitious plan was abandoned. Even the most loyal viewers acknowledged that the show had lost some of its previous brilliance, but it continued airing anyhow. After a string of missteps, Rick's company finally collapsed. Rick knew one thing for sure: the show would continue regardless. He swiftly sought out alternative investments, properties, and business opportunities to safeguard his funds. People with lofty ambitions had come and gone through the store. Quick deals, more cash and collectibles were brought by the subsequent vendor. An individual enters the establishment brandishing what appears to be a 10-pound note, but it is actually not a bill. This piece has been altered by the renowned graffiti artist Banksy. The elderly man appears to have purchased what appears to be a priceless find from the vendor. It is counterfeit money, as the old man perceives it. However, the man informs him that artwork by Banksy can fetch thousands of dollars. Unbeknownst to him, the old man will not believe him. All he sees is broken currency. An expert on Banksy's work confirms its authenticity, but downplays its significance and rarity. Its value is approximately a few $100s. The seller is trying to hold on to what little he can because he once fantasized about becoming filthy rich. Even though he claims to want $500, the old man doesn't believe him. He haggles for quite a while before he finally gets $400. Perhaps he anticipated more, but in any case, this serves as some context. One of our former sailors has brought in a sextant that was once aboard the USS Constitution. The ship Hector, which was used for repairs during WWI, was Class S. They share an interest in military history, and the guy is full of stories. But come on, sextants aren't used to find our way anymore. We don't live in the 1800s anymore. The seller is asking nearly $400, but the elderly man is willing to pay much less due to his knowledge of how rare fans are. Even though the vendor puts up a fight, dealing with a longtime pawn shop owner is no picnic. About $390, I am not happy. In this case, I'd be happy to accept $200. After that, I can request $300. Select the initial option. There is a $275 in flux. The final price of $265 is fair, but it's not nearly as much as the seller was hoping for. An old panoramic black and white photo of a WI airport in Las Vegas is supposedly pretty cool. The artifact in Waltz's possession is worth at least $500, according to him. The elderly gentleman remains motionless. Just because it's old doesn't imply it's important, even though it is fascinating. Not many people are purchasing it, he says, but history buffs might enjoy it. Despite the seller's best efforts, the elderly man remains unresponsive, so he counteroffers $400. The seller is shocked when he offers only $100. The vendor makes an unsuccessful attempt to negotiate a lower price. Leaving with the picture in his hand, he realizes that in the world of loans, sentimental value isn't necessarily translated into cold hard cash. The Civil War-era Savage Navy revolver is up for sale. Its unusual appearance tells them it's rare. The elderly man begins to wager because he is unwilling to purchase it at $1,800. He has a firearms expert verify the authenticity of the weapon. The expert adds that the gun's heavy, ungainly, and unpractical design meant it was not popular during its heyday. On the other hand, weird history item collectors estimate a maximum value of $2,000 for it. A deal is struck because the seller is still after a large sum of money, and the old man is unwilling to pay that much. The vendor is going to suffocate. He says, "No, no, that's not going to happen. I think it will be more like 1,200. After much back and forth, the parties settle on $1,400 because the old man is unyielding. Despite the low price, the seller fulfilled a lifelong sports fan's fantasy by giving the old man an autographed baseball from the 1951 Yankees. Notable athletes, such as Joe DiMaggio and Mickey Mantle, have put their signatures on the seller's ball. Up until you examine it more closely, it sounds fantastic. The name is faded and worn, and there's no evidence to suggest it's genuine. He employs a specialist because the elderly man is wise enough to know better than to gamble with his sports memorabilia. According to the expert, it is genuine, damaged, and very valuable. Absolutely not. The seller is confronted with the reality when he demands $3,000. Though the conditions are crucial to him, the elderly man offers $800 anyhow. The vendor abandons the deal and takes off running, all the while holding on to the ball. It's not a deal. It irritated the old man because as he sees it, the correct person can buy nerdy stuff. Due to his certainty in the uniqueness of his wares, the seller is asking $2,000 for them. To which the elderly man replies with a laugh, "It's not a real prop used on screen, and nerds usually build their own instead of buying." With that, he offers a firm $1,000. After some consideration, the vendor accepts it. He might have spent more than that, but at least he has some savings for when he gets a new job. Will you be watching Ghostbusters? Stand up straight. I was hoping for a little more than $150, but that's all I got. Now I have money, and a striking 6-foot-tall wooden Indian sculpture. It was once outside his grandfather's tobacco shop, which the seller claims makes him feel emotional, but that isn't enough to sell it. Therefore, he is hoping to receive $900 for it. Deal broken. The elderly man loses $400 in an outburst of laughter. When he asks for $600, the old man tells him he'll win again if he can't get $600 for it. With famous faces, lofty objectives, and a razor-thin margin for error, the store occasionally felt more like an art exhibition. Someone came in trying to sell what they claimed was an owl vase by Picasso for a pretty penny. This container wasn't your average one. In the 1940s or 1950s, he made it himself. There was a strict 500 copy limit. Though it may sound fancy, Picasso actually made quite a few of these owls in an exclusive run. They sent out a lot of batches, each of which had a stamp and a number. Nobody anticipated they would be worth so much when they were sold, but now they are, or so the seller thought. This particular individual owned the vase for over 3 decades before deciding to sell it due to a move. The owner of the pawn shop, Rick, was not going to accept his ambitious $35,000 goal. Instead of taking his word for it, he had an expert review it as well. It was crystal clear that the art expert was referring to an authentic piece. The fact that he pointed out crucial details, like the correct stamps, marks and immaculate condition, served as proof. The last point is crucial because conditions can determine the success or failure of a deal. Picasso must have made this vase yesterday, because it looked brand new. And now we get to the shocking price. These vases are selling for $61,000 on some internet sites, but that's just a fantasy. Beyond that, this piece has the potential to earn $25,000. The seller was hoping for much less than that. Yet the pawn shop industry feels its effects acutely. A sum of $115,000 was offered by Rick. After Chad verified its authenticity, he agreed with Rick that it was a good idea to look up prices online. Any topic is fair game for questioning at any time. What they get at the end is what matters. Like two poker players attempting to predict who will fold first, they fought back and forth. This vendor just wouldn't budge. After much haggling, the final price came to $177,000. For a vase that has been empty for a long time, that is quite impressive. Right when you thought you'd seen it all, another Picasso piece appeared. This time, it was a picture frame from the 50s. It was one of 150 pieces created and was titled, "Goat Skull on Table." It had previously been purchased for nearly $119,500, and its current owner considered that a fair price. The pawn shop employees would not risk spending that much money without consulting an expert. Actually, it was an aquatint etching, a fancy word for an imitation watercolor that wasn't actually hand-painted. Is it worth it? Yes. However, $116,000 is an exaggeration. A short phone call to the boss yielded the best offer of $11,000. Although initially hesitant, the seller eventually consented to the deal. There was a new Picasso at the lending store. A limited edition book's 6 etchings were then offered for $5,000 by the vendor. He had high hopes that anything featuring Picasso's name would be a huge hit with buyers. The caveat is that, although Picasso is undeniably a legendary artist, not all of his works are considered masterpieces. Some go for pennies on the dollar, or even a few hundred. The specialist confirmed their authenticity. These drawings were originally created by Picasso for a book titled Lysistrata, and were included in a special collection. Due to Picasso's signature, the book's value increased significantly. Rick was determined not to dispose of it despite its $10,000 value, as he held the belief that its potential value could be even higher. Rick finally settled on a $6,000 payment after much negotiation. There is a new home for another set of Picasso's works. He then proceeded to say, "All right, we have a deal. I'll shake your hand." He then spoke about settling for $6,000. His response was, "I'll take it. That's $1,000 more than I thought I could get from the book." However, the Picasso procession was far from over. He claimed it was an L. 1968 Picasso Celestine collection when he brought it in. Selling a car without the title is the same as trying to sell a house without the proper paperwork. Not many green lights are lit. For confirmation that it was authentic, Rick consulted his go-to art dealer. The expert gave the item the green light after examining the paper quality, plate marks, and overall value. It wasn't a victory, but it was genuine. Because Picasso created so many of them, their value was significantly lower than what some might assume. On the market, it was worth around $2,000 to $3,000. As a result, the vendor felt compelled to get out of bed. Back when he was a kid, his family bought it on a cruise for $99,000. This demonstrated that cruise ship sales frequently charge exorbitant prices. Rick offered $1,500. It was hard for the seller to take the money, and just when you thought the shop had seen enough Picasso for the day, someone else came in with 2 etchings. Poor Roby was the name of one of the drawings, while the other featured a dove. Picasso created a large number of them, however, not all of them were equally valuable. According to an art expert, they were authentic. However, the dove print was an inexpensive reproduction that on a good day would cost about $200. In contrast, Robin was the less desirable option. According to an informed source, its potential museum sale price ranges from $800 to $500. It was a preliminary printing on high-quality paper. The vendor was asking nothing for either of them, but Rick was unwilling to pay more than $650, so he passed on the dove and offered poor Roby $650 instead. Knowing it would be better to receive payment immediately rather than wait and hope for more, the seller agreed to the terms. Were Rick's terms reasonable and prudent for his company? On the other hand, was his offer too low, thus insulting the seller? Let us know in the comments, and if you're interested in more deals and opinions, you can subscribe to our channel.